To the United States Army commander of the encircled town of Bastogne, the fortune of war is changing. There's only one possibility of saving your encircled troops from total annihilation. That is the honorable surrender of this town. If you reject our proposal, 6 battalions are ready to annihilate you and your troops. All the serious civilian losses would not correspond with the well-known American humanity. What is your answer?
Nuts.
Werner Polchow was a first lieutenant in the German army, in command of a mortar unit. In December 1944, he took part in Hitler's most audacious plan, the Ardennes Offensive. Today, he sells building materials in Mannheim, Germany.
Es ist nun 20 Jahre her seit der Rundstedt-Offensive und Weihnachten bei Bastogne. It's 20 years since the Rundstedt-Offensive and that Christmas near Bastogne. A farmer and his family befriended us. I'm sure they realized that people on both sides were basically the same.
Leroy Valheim is a tile contractor in Fresno, California. During the German Ardennes Offensive, he was a U.S. Army sergeant, the commander of a light reconnaissance tank.
We were using our tank as a decoy. We'd move out into the open, let the enemy take a pot shot at us, then radio artillery to zero in. It was just a matter of who was going to get who first.
During 1944, in the snow-covered Ardennes forest of Belgium, the lives of Werner Polchow and Leroy Valheim crossed. 2 fighting men, 1 German, 1 American, relived that moment in history. By the end of 1944, the Allied armies in Europe are threatening the German homeland itself. Hitler is much like an animal at bay. He must strike back or perish. He believes that a heavy concentration of troops in one supreme and daring effort may turn the clock back to 1940, drive the Americans and the British all the way back to the Channel ports, and force them into a negotiated peace. It is a desperate risk, but Hitler must take it. Hitler first broaches his plan in September 1944 as the British and American forces prepare their final smash into Germany. In the center of the front is a rugged 85-mile area, the Ardennes Forest. The plan, a surprise attack punching through the weak spot in overwhelming numbers, seize several road junctions and river bridges, then drive to the sea at Antwerp, then squeeze as they did in 1940. Attached to the 2nd Panzer Division is a mortar unit commander, Lieutenant Werner Polchow.
2 days ago, my mortar group was ordered out from the Westwall bunkers and sent to this regrouping area. There's a coming and going like I have not seen for some time. There are very many modern and good war vehicles, and quite a few highly decorated officers and soldiers from other fronts.
Provide hints of troop concentrations. Captured German soldiers tell Allied captors an attack is being mounted. When a First Army intelligence officer warns it might come in the Ardennes, his colleagues suggest he suffers from battle fatigue. All agree the Germans are on their last legs. They can't possibly launch a counteroffensive. North of the Ardennes, the Allies have 16 divisions poised on the approaches to Germany's western border. Half of them battle-wise, but exhausted. The rest, green and untested. South of the forest, there are 10 American divisions preparing for an offensive into Germany's Saar region. The American Third Army under General George Patton is scheduled to begin the attack on December 19th. One of Patton's tankers in the 4th Armored Division is Sergeant Leroy Valheim.
Our outfit has been off the line for about a week now. Another week, we'll probably be shoving off again. Right now, though, everybody is enjoying the extra shut-eye we're getting.
The order is given. General von Manteuffel says to the officers in our division, "Gentlemen, Let's go. Cross the River Meuse and reach Antwerp without looking left or right. It is the shortest order I ever have received. We old, experienced soldiers feel that this attack can only be the last struggle. But the young men are impressed. They have enthusiasm. They believe the war can be turned in our favor.
Early morning, December 16th. A shattering barrage of German artillery and rocket fire lights the skies. Panzers, under cover of fog and rain, slip into American armored columns, then blast the Americans off the road.
So far, the resistance has been sporadic. The Americans are caught off guard by the surprise of our attack. They don't know what all the shooting is about, since it is coming from every direction.
"10,000 troops of the Green U.S. 106th Division, the Golden Lion, are encircled by the Germans. Their officers see no way out. More than 7,000 soldiers of the 106th destroy their arms and give up as suspects. Passwords go out the window. Unless you know modern American folklore, you're in trouble. One American general is held in a cellar by MPs for 5 hours because he doesn't know how many home runs Babe Ruth hit in his best year. "15,000 American airborne troops are rushed as reserves to defense positions around Bastogne. In command, General Anthony McAuliffe, acting commander of the 101st Airborne Division.
Quite near Bastogne, our unit encounters very strong fire from the American infantry. They are skillful with their defenses, so our panzers bypass the town. Then we bring up our mortars and artillery and start firing on the enemy emplacement.
Elsewhere, with communications shattered, other Americans fight isolated holding actions. Cooks, orderlies, supply personnel pick up guns, fight as infantry. So do the engineers and artillerymen. Gradually, small scattered units hold up the German advance, especially around Saint-Vith. Hitler's timetable, 2 days to the Meuse, is upset. On battle maps, the German salient quickly has taken on the appearance of a bulge extending well into Allied positions. The Ardennes offensive becomes known as the Battle of the Bulge.
It doesn't take long for orders to come down from headquarters. We get 2 hours to load our tanks with extra gas and be ready to pull out. I'm in command of a light tank with a crew of 3 men. 1 man goes after rations, another gathers up our bedding, while 2 of us tend to the tank. It's one big rush. But by 2200, we, and I guess the rest of the division, are ready to shove off.
It becomes obvious Hitler is risking everything in one last desperate military gamble. On the 3rd day, General Eisenhower orders General Patton's 3rd Army to attack the German flank and relieve Bastogne. Patton, with his army 125 miles south of the Bulge, replies with a near impossible statement: "We attack the day after tomorrow." December 20th. The Battle of the Bulge is in its 5th day. American forces are reeling under the impact of the mighty German offensive. General Patton and his Third Army are driving north toward Bastogne to counterattack. A freeze sets in so the roads can support the heavy armor.
The whole division is on the go. Somebody must be in a hell of a hurry because every vehicle is ordered to drive with lights on. It's definitely not according to the book, but we're making fast time. Between looking out for enemy planes and watching the tank running ahead of us, I feel like a swivel head. Each man takes his turn at driving while the rest of us sleep curled up in our seats. Radio silence is being maintained, so there's no way of knowing what's up. We just follow along and hope the guy leading the column knows where he's heading.
For the past 48 hours, we have been fighting in close quarters with the enemy. Even my mortar crew fights now as infantry. Every minute has its prizes. We are shooting, throwing grenades, and doing even worse things. Otherwise, you cannot hope to survive.
The Germans send an emissary to Bastogne with an ultimatum to surrender or be destroyed. General McAuliffe's reply is short and to the point. Nuts. The same day, Patton's advance columns reach the southern flank of the Bulge. The German 7th Army is prepared for them. There's no hope of a quick breakthrough to relieve the town.
The fog's so thick, you can't see more than 100 yards. We've come a long way, and now no one can say for sure where we are, or where the enemy is. I begin to think we're lucky it's foggy, or we might be sitting ducks in this narrow road.
Not all that's needed, but enough to enable the Americans to hang on. Christmas Eve. The battle is now 10 days old.
For this night, we are quartered in an old barn. When we took it over, the owners disappeared. While we are singing our Christmas carols, the farmer returns with his whole family. We invite them to join our celebration. Everything we have in food, cigarettes and schnapps, we divide evenly. For the moment, we forget about the war.
Nobody knows what the general situation is. What we hold is ours, and that's all. Right now, it's a barnyard with a couple pieces of artillery we're protecting.
Christmas Day. Word is received that the western spearhead of the German 2nd Panzer Division has been stopped, just short of the Meuse. It's not good news to the men of Bastogne. They anticipate the powerful tank division will now turn back to hit them. They're right. Hitler is told by his generals that they can't reach the Meuse, much less the English Channel. Furious, he orders an all-out attack on Bastogne.
some of our panzers break into...
On the On January 3rd,
even here in the rear, it's obvious from the great air power of the Americans how this battle will end. We cannot win. Brave men have died for nothing. So that the wife will forget the terrible times. They will talk and remember differently. Other people who listen, especially the young, will come to the conclusion their fathers fought a joyful war. How wrong that would be.
We've lost a lot of equipment and quite a few men, so we're pulling back to get reorganized. We'll draw new equipment and train new men. Then we'll be coming back up on the line again. That's for sure.
it was a remarkable feat in itself for Patton's Third Army, poised to strike eastward, to turn north and race 125 miles to the Bastogne area in just 2 days. But more important, Patton's units arrived prepared to fight immediately. Their entry into the battle doomed the last German offensive of World War II. Sergeant Leroy Valheim fights on with Patton's Third Army and wins the Bronze and Silver Stars for bravery. The end of the European War finds him in Czechoslovakia, a newly commissioned second lieutenant. After being wounded, Lieutenant Werner Polchow spends some time in a German hospital. Then, still partly crippled, he serves out the war as a non-combatant. In May, he is taken prisoner in the Ruhr Valley by the Americans. Hitler's last offensive, the Battle of the Bulge, caught the Allies by surprise. For a brief, exultant period, it raised German morale both in the army and at home. But in the end, the Bulge was turned into still another German defeat. The Germans had spent their tanks and fighting men. Little was left.